a staggering 34% of the population, they earn less than 2,000 ringgit per month. More than 1 in 3 engineers, they have a starting pay of less than 2,000 ringgit. How could someone who studied 4 years, a high-skilled degree, earn almost the same as a McDonald's waiter? Your wages are low, it's a double whammy because your mandatory contributions by yourself and your employer, they are also lower. 1 in 2 members, they have less than 12,000 ringgit in their retirement accounts. It came a long way, our country, since the start of the year. If you take a look at the ringgit, ringgit right now is at 4.28. But in September, actually at the end of September, the ringgit rallied to a 42-month high of 4.09. Yeah, and that's due to several factors. Yeah, first of all, mainly it comes from the US because the US side, gradually reducing interest rates, and they're saying that more interest rates reductions are coming. But we also have a lot of good news on the Malaysian front. Right? First things first is that JP Morgan has upgraded our country's rating from underweight to neutral. And then we also have lots of investments in data centers, right? Particularly Johor, okay? All of these tech companies, major tech companies such as Google, right? TikTok, right? They are planning to build AI and data centers in Malaysia. Okay, we also have positive GDP and growth numbers. Okay, so all of this have definitely contributed to the strength of the Malaysian ringgit. In fact, MIDF predicts that the local note will hit 4.03 by year end. So previously, actually right now, it has retraced back to about 4.28. I'm not entirely sure if it will hit 4.03. My stance, our take at the futures was 4.20. It already blown past that a few weeks ago. So yeah, we'll keep our fingers crossed and hope that the ringgit will continue to strengthen through the end of the year. But Budget 2025, this one is another big moment for Malaysia because it will set the tone for our country as well as the rakyat. Okay, and obviously, there are several issues that we need to urgently address, which I hope the current administration will take note of. Okay, the first one is wealth inequality, which if you guys are unfamiliar, I think you should look more deeper into it. More people should know about this. A staggering 34% of the population, accounting for 2.04 million individuals, they earn less than 2,000 ringgit per month. Now, there's a lot of things to say and break down about this chart. If you take a look at the graphs itself, you'll notice that the distribution of wealth decreases exponentially as income increases, but it abruptly skews towards the rich. And based off on this data itself, right, you can see that roughly 50% of the population, they have a salary of less than 3,000 ringgit per month. Okay, so that's quite worrying, and we are only talking about the formal sector, because this one is by the Department of Statistics, okay, and it only accounts for 60% of employees in the formal workforce sector, i.e. those that are actively contributing to their retirement accounts every month. We are not even touching or even talking about the informal category yet. For all we know, this sector may have the same figures, if not worse. Right? And like what I said just now, really just highlights the disparity in wealth, right? It suddenly just abruptly skews towards the rich. For all we know, the T20 bracket may look exactly the same. Now, previously, what we've been looking at is that the majority of the rakyat has always blamed the rich. Right? I'm sure some of us has done this before, right? We think that T20s, they should be taxed more without actually having a good idea of how the bracket looks like. Right? Because the government doesn't give us that data. And for all we know, the T20 bracket may look exactly the same, the distribution of wealth, where the top 0.001% to 0.1% of the people, they earn way higher than the rest of the group itself. Right? So you can see there is sort of like a flaw within the B40, M40 and T20 classification system. Right? Because a single mother having 12k salary, they are considered T20, even though they are taking care of 3 kids and their parents. Right? In this case, are you going to advocate for more taxes to this group? Well, definitely no. It's sort of like injustice, right? Then next, we also have a single person. If they're earning 9k per month, are they considered M40 or not? Okay, because right now, households in Malaysia, they are classified based on their total income. Right? Bottom 40%, you are considered quote-unquote B40 if you have a total income of less than 5k. Right? Then you are considered M40 if your total income within your household is less than 11.8k. So someone could be single and they are earning like a 9k salary, but they are still considered M40. Whereas someone who is like taking care of a family of 3 kids, right, even though they have 12K salary, they are considered T20 when they are just sort of like getting by only. Okay? So you can see there is a huge disparity of wealth, and this classification is unknowingly stirring a divide between the rakyat. Therefore, for Budget 2025, I hope that some measures will be taken in order to distribute wealth more fairly. In particular, the extremely rich people, they need to be addressed. These are the people that the government needs to target. These are the people that the government need to tax more. These people easily earn in excess of 50,000 to 100,000 ringgit a month, and they're just happily staying up there. Right? Whereas B40s have been constantly arguing with T20s when they're actually not absurdly rich. They're just getting by a bit more comfortably than the most of us. Okay? So that's the first thing. Now, when it comes to inequality, that comes from our extremely low wages, which I also touched quite extensively about. And I'm sure you guys are well familiar with this because the majority of us are youngsters. I'm assuming age 20 to 35, right? And when you graduate, what's your salary? Definitely it's about 2 to 3K. If you're lucky, you get a salary of about 3 to 4K. And this figure has stayed stagnant for the past decade, which means that the current generation is earning exactly the same, if not slightly lesser, compared to previous generations. Meanwhile, everything else has increased in price. We take a look at property prices, we take a look at food prices, right? But if you have the elder generation that are more, traditional, so to speak, right? They tend to blame it on the current generation or the younger generation, saying that, oh, youngsters these days, they don't want to work hard, they don't want to grow, they don't want to go through the hardship that we've gone through, right? Blaming it on the generation itself is not a very good reason when you take a look at the data and our wages haven't gone anywhere. What's more depressing is that I actually came across a survey conducted by the Board of Engineers Malaysia, stating that more than 1 in 3 engineers as of 2021, they have a starting pay of less than 2,000 ringgit. So any engineers in the chat so far? If you're an engineer, just say yes, I'm an engineer, just tell me your starting salary, okay? Because this is quite worrying. And it sort of like infuriates me, it makes me angry because how could someone who studied 4 years, a high-skilled degree, they earn almost the same as a McDonald's waiter? Clearly, there is something very wrong with the system. Okay? And fortunately, the current administration has taken a few steps to gradually rectify this issue, but more action needs to be taken. Okay? So low wages, they are also one of the main causes of extremely low retirement savings. And this makes sense because if your wages are low, your budget becomes extremely tight. You can't afford to save, even though if you can save, you only save about 50 to 100 ringgit every month, which is inconsequential over the long run. Okay? And when your wages are low, it's a double whammy because your mandatory contributions by yourself and your employer, they are also lower. Which leads us to the table over here. I'm not sure if you guys can see the numbers. Anyway, according to EPF, as of December 2023, 1 in 2 members, they have less than 12,000 ringgit in their retirement accounts, below the age of 55. So less than 12,000 ringgit, 1 in 2 of them. And among the 3 main races, Bumi Putras, they have the most worrying level of savings at only 8,200 ringgit. So now with this figure, EPF has also previously recommended a minimum amount that you should retire with. Now we're not even talking about comfortable retirement. We're talking about you have to have this amount in your EPF account by the age of 55. That is the minimum. Otherwise, you cannot retire at all. Okay, and this amount in 2019 is 240,000 ringgit. So 240,000 ringgit, why did they come up with this figure? Because it will allow you to get 1,000 ringgit per month for the next 20 years, which we can go on an endless debate. This 1,000 ringgit per month, how can you survive with this? Right? Probably just give you 1 or 2 weeks worth of food only. Right? But with a median savings of 12,000 ringgit, like what you guys seen just now, can you guys in the chat guess how much you will have after 20 years post-retirement? Just message it in the chat. So 240,000 ringgit, you will have 1,000 ringgit per month for the next 20 years. What about 12,000 ringgit? If you only have 12,000 ringgit in your EPF account by the age of 55, how much do you think you will have across the next 20 years? But anyway, let me just tell you the answer. Okay? It's 50 ringgit. You will only have 50 ringgit per month to use from your EPF account for the next 20 years. And the majority of people have that amount right now, 1 in 2 people, okay, which is really just very worrying. And let's not just complain now, let's propose some solutions. What can the government do in order to increase members' retirement savings? Well, the first thing that they can do is to sort of like introduce a matching contribution scheme, right? To encourage members to top up into their KWSP account. Let's say this year you contributed 500 ringgit into EPF. Then the government will also match that contribution, 500 ringgit. Obviously, there's a yearly limit. They set it at probably 1,000 or even 2,000 ringgit per person per year. That is to encourage members to top up their savings, right? Another step is to give like a bonus return. 1 to 2% bonus return for the first like 30,000 ringgit in everyone's EPF account. So this works much like ASB bonuses. If there are any Bumi Putras in the chat, you know what I'm talking about, right? It's because ASB, they typically declare like a 1% bonus for your first 30,000 ringgit, right? So EPF could also do something like this. Maybe first 50,000 ringgit, they give you like an additional 1 to 2% return. Then citizens, they'll be more encouraged to top up their EPF accounts because they know the first 30,000 or maybe even first 50,000 ringgit, it generates much higher returns, right? And after this, we should also not be allowing full withdrawals by the age of 55. I'm going to say this again. A full withdrawal by the age of 55 is a massive red flag. Some of you guys may say that, oh, it's my own money, I want all of my money by the age of 55. But this is not really about you. Because Anwar recently revealed that 25% of Malaysians, 1 in 4 of them, they completely drain their EPF accounts just 5 years after their withdrawal age. So meaning by the age of 60, 1 in 4 Malaysians, they have no more savings left because they already drained all of it. And for those people who are advocating full withdrawal, saying that, oh, I can manage my own money or whatnot, well, just listen to the thoughts from a financial planner, okay, and an economist. So this one is from Mr. Sani Hamid. I'm just going to read it out. While it's our own money, the government's responsibility is to ensure that the country's finances, ultimately the rakyat's own taxpayers' money, is managed properly. If 1 in 4 Malaysians have no retirement income by the age of 60, it now becomes a social economic issue. It now becomes our problem, not their problem, as they will eventually turn to the government for help. And then the current administration cannot say that, oh, who asked you to spend everything before the age of 60? Right? Because these people, they are voters also. So the government will eventually have to help them see through their hardships and at the end of the day, take more money from the 75%, i.e. more fiscal burden. I can almost guarantee you that this percentage will only increase in the near future. So EPF's objective is to mainly ensure a retirement nest egg. If it stops at 55 and hands back 100% of the funds to the contributors, 1 in 4 Malaysians end up without a nest egg by the age of 60, then EPF would have failed in its mandate, having only succeeded in the accumulation part but failed in the disbursement part of its members' retirement journey. I think this is summed up very nicely. Okay, at the end of the day, even though if you don't think it's your problem, you think you can manage your funds properly, what about the rest of the population? Right? They are not educated since young. What if they drain all of their savings? At the end of the day, they have to turn to the government for more money, which the government will turn to us, right, the taxpayers, for more money. And like it or not, you're going to see higher and higher taxes in the near future if this is not resolved ASAP. More subsidies will not solve the root cause of the problem. For Budget 2025, I'm hoping that the government will not introduce more compensation. Rather, the government should tackle the root cause of the problem. Our low wages are mainly due to a mismatch between education and market demand. I don't know about the education system now. I graduated about 8 to 10 years ago. But previously, when I was in high school, a lot of the stuff that I learned in high school is not applicable 1 or 2 years later. It's not even applicable now. So the education system needs to be revamped, and I hope that the government will give more incentives for students who pursue studies that are relevant in this era. That's the most important thing, right? We are supposed to encourage students to pursue AI, right? Technology, energy, and finance. Why do I say finance? Because if you look at the majority of listed companies in Malaysia, they're all banks. There's Maybank, Public Bank, CIMB, right? So therefore, more education should be placed in this area in order for students to stay relevant and at the end of the day receive higher wages. Okay, so on to the next section, which I am finishing my slides shortly. This one is petrol subsidies. This one has long been a dilemma for the government because it mainly benefits the rich. Yeah, there is a figure, I think, announced by Tengku Zafrul previously. Just let me take a look at it. Yeah, mainly benefits the rich because, well, the rich, they drive bigger cars, they consume more fuel, right? And 53 cents of every ringgit we spend in fuel subsidy, we provided a fuel subsidy, goes to the T20s. Meanwhile, only 15% is utilized by B40s. So you can see, right, subsidies, the government implemented this for the poor, but the majority of it is being utilized by the rich. So at the end of the day, I think it's really time to roll back these subsidies. And let's also not forget about smuggling. It is estimated that Malaysia loses about 4.5 million ringgit a day to the smuggling of RON 95 and diesel. So 1 year, you multiply by 365, that's 1.64 billion. So it's time to partially roll back the petrol subsidies and hand more cash vouchers to those people who really need it. So yeah, we have a comment from Robert Chan. The money in EPF will only be worth 50% of its face value when you retire due to inflation. Yeah. Okay, so a very simple way to visualize inflation on top of your head, just use the rule of 72. Okay, this one you can also use it to sort of like visualize your returns also. So you take 72, you divide by the rate of return. That's the number of years it takes for your funds to double or cut in half. So let me just explain it further. So let's say the inflation in Malaysia right now is 2%, which is honestly not that figure. It's actually slightly higher, about 2.15% or around that range. So you take 72, you divide it by 2, so it will take 36 years for 100,000 ringgit to be worth 50,000 ringgit. Yeah, which is not a long time. 36 years is actually quite a short time within your lifespan. So that's a bit of an idea on inflation. Now, when it comes to returns, right, you take 72, you divide it by 5. Let's say EPF gives you about 5% return every year, right? You take 72, you divide it by 5. I think the answer comes out to be about 14, if I'm not mistaken. In this case, it will take 14 years for 10,000 ringgit in your EPF account, assuming no further contributions, to double into 20,000 ringgit. Okay, so yeah, rule of 72, a very good way for you to visualize how returns will be shown in the near future. Okay, so let's move on. Let's see. No one will be able to retire from now onwards, realistically. Yeah, this is the tough thing to say. Okay, the comfortable figure, and I will just say this, you guys can quote me. To retire comfortably in the next 20 to 30 years, we will need at least 1 million ringgit. I'll say it again. We will need at least 1 million ringgit. We will all need to be millionaires in order to retire in 20 to 30 years. Which means your EPF account, you need to hit that 1 mil target. And I've posted about this multiple times. You can just check out on the pin post in our bio. I think I explained quite extensively on that. Okay. So yeah, let me move on over to maximizing tax reliefs, which, by the way, guys, we are going on to the Q&A session right now. Any questions, any comments, just message them in the chat room and I will proceed to address them. So yeah, last minute tax reliefs. So it's October right now, going to be November soon. We have less than 3 months left to maximize our tax reliefs. And next Friday, 18th of October, the government will also announce the details of the tax reliefs for YA 2024, assessment year 2024. So we will expect the government to maintain the 2,500 ringgit relief, the lifestyle relief. This one covers any reading material, whether physical or electronic, as long as it's not banned. So any reading material at all is your e-book. Let's say you bought a novel on Kindle, right? This one is tax deductible also, as long as it's not banned. Personal computers, smartphones, and tablets. A lot of people mistaken this category as gadgets. They think that monitors as well as keyboards, they are covered. No, actually, what's covered is only personal computers, smartphones, and tablets. If you purchase, let's say, a desktop, and within the same receipt, it comes with a monitor and a keyboard, then you can claim that for tax relief. But you can't separately buy a monitor and then separately buy a keyboard, different receipts, and then lump it together in one tax relief receipt. It doesn't work that way. So sports equipment, shuttlecock, golf balls, basketball, your badminton rackets, all this can be tax deductible. But sports shoes, sports clothing, they are considered as sports attire, so they cannot be claimed. Okay, so smartwatches also cannot be claimed. Don't get too excited and after that go and buy a smartwatch just to deduct your total taxes, because like what I said just now, it only covers personal computers, smartphones, and tablets. Internet subscription, yeah, this one is your Unify, your Time Wi-Fi, it must be under your own name. Okay? So up next, what else to maximize? Well, your contributions to EPF. So in 2023, the government introduced first 4K that covers mandatory and voluntary contributions, which if your salary is about 2,800 ringgit, you would have already maxed out this tax relief. Okay, so for the entire of the year, if your salary is more than 2.8K, when you fill in your tax form next year, you can just directly just directly fill this section out, okay, because you already meet this maximum threshold. So extra 3,000 ringgit, that one covers life insurance, takaful voluntary contributions. So for those people who have voluntarily contribute to EPF every month, say about 100 or 250 ringgit, that adds up to about 3,000 ringgit a year. Yeah, that one is tax deductible. Okay. So next is PRS, don't forget about that, and education and medical insurance for yourself, spouse or child, up to 3,000 ringgit. If I'm not mistaken, there's also a 1,000 ringgit tax relief for medical checkups. Yeah, so get yourselves checked up, guys, because it's also tax deductible. Now, we move on over to the more important question on whether to max out your PRS or EPF first. Because this one is asked by a lot of people. I want to choose between EPF or PRS, which one? So, for me, what I will do is, if I have any extra money and I want to deduct my taxes further, I will choose to max out EPF first. Now, why is this the case? Well, because EPF, what you see is what you get. Okay, there are no management fees, there are no trustee fees, there are no sales charges, right? And EPF's returns in the past 5 years or so, has been quite juicy, 5.52%. So what you see is what you get. That's why I'll max out that one first for tax reliefs. Now, when it comes to PRS, for those people who are currently investing in PRS, well, I want you guys to pay attention because after this session, go and check with your agent what type of fund you are investing in. Yeah, PRS heavily depends on what funds you are invested in. Because a lot of the PRS funds, they do not keep track of inflation at all. Take a look at this example over here. Sorry to name the fund, so to speak. Its yearly return since 2015 is only 1.91%. So if you're investing just for the tax relief, over the long run, over 20 to 30 years, you have much more money if you just put it into EPF. Right? So for those people who are currently investing in PRS, make sure you check what type of fund you're invested in and make sure that it at least beats inflation, or better yet, beats EPF's returns. Otherwise, you might as well just keep it in EPF, right? Because EPF's returns, they are pretty steady and stable over the past 5 years. So Arvin says, government should revise the B40, M40 and T20 categories. Classify 12K a month earners as T20 while 11.9K as M40 doesn't make sense. Yeah, I entirely agree. And I also talked about it just now, right? Because you classify someone based off entirely on their income and not their household. That is a flawed system. Okay, a single mother, let's say she earns 12K, but she's taking care of 3 kids and her elderly parents. Even though she earns 12K, right now she's classified as T20, and she's being taxed way more compared to M40s and B40s, right? Even though she's just probably barely getting by, right? Which is why the rakyat needs to understand more about this classification system. It's not exactly T20 means you're filthy rich. The T20s, they may just be getting by because their family is large. That's why they have to earn more income, right? It's those people who are the T1s, the T0.001 to T0.1% of people. They are silently earning an in excess income 50,000 to 100,000 ringgit per month. These are the people that the government needs to pinpoint and address and take a look at how they're going to increase the taxes on them, not on the entirety of the population, especially T20s, right? At the end of the day, if you're looking for more taxes on T20s, it's just like taxing those people who are just barely getting by more in order to satisfy those people, those who are needy, right? And meanwhile, those who are extremely rich, they are just chilling over there at the top of their yard or whatsoever. Okay, so yeah, this really needs to be urgently addressed, and I hope that Budget 2025 covers that. Right, okay, let's talk about Boost Bank, okay? Because that's a bit interesting. Right now, they are running a promotion that allows users to earn 5% per annum until the end of the month, okay? So what you need to take note of is that this only applies to your first 25,000 ringgit. And I think the quota has already been completely filled. You got to check on that. And what you need to know is that the Boost Bank is not Sharia compliant. And another thing is that a lot of users, they voiced out their not very pleasant experience after using the Boost Bank app. So If you want to try out the app, make sure you don't put all of your eggs in one basket. Okay. Next, what do we have? I think we have Versa up next. I also talked briefly about Versa Cash. Yeah, Versa Cash. This one is a classic. For those of you who have been following the futures for some time, you know that we are affiliates with Versa. And I never regretted to be an affiliate with Versa because the app is very consistent, it's very simple to use, and the returns have been very steady over time. And so, thing to note about Versa is that they have two products, Versa Cash and Versa Cash I. So Versa Cash is not Sharia compliant, but it gives you slightly higher returns, up to 4% per annum. But Versa Cash I, it's Sharia compliant, but with lower returns. Okay, so this one, with it being sort of like a money market fund, it's classified as an investment, therefore it's not protected by PIDM, and your withdrawals will take about 1 to 2 business days. But if you invest in Versa Cash, let's say in Versa Cash I, and you sort of like apply for withdrawal before 10 a.m, you get same day withdrawals. And that's a fun fact that not a lot of people know. So Kewangan graduate, yeah, hi. Can use Rise 3.3% per annum, Sharia? Yeah, Rise is also a good place for you to grow your savings. Previously, their return was at 5%, then they reduced it to 4%, then 3.8%, and now it's 3.3%. So it's not the highest, but it's Sharia compliant, and it gives you quite a decent return. By the way, Rise, that one is protected by PIDM. You can withdraw your funds instantly. Okay, whereas Versa Cash, you gotta wait 1 to 2 business days. So we got a question from Jovina. What's the risk of investing in non-Sharia compliant platforms? Okay, this one doesn't really concern you if you are not a Malay or not a Bumiputra. Okay, mainly this one only concerns those people who are Bumiputras. Okay, they're looking at investment platforms that are adhering to Sharia principles. Yeah, essentially not riba. So I'm not an expert on this, but if you are not a Bumiputra, not a Malay, you don't have to worry anything about it. Okay, so up next, let's see what's the next one. Fixed deposits. I think I also talked about fixed deposits. Yeah, fixed deposits right now, they are becoming more and more attractive. Previously, we don't really advocate fixed deposits at the Futurists because there are a lot of different types of cash apps giving you very decent returns. Previously, Versa was giving you 4% flat, right? GX Bank, I think at one of the months, they also give you like 5%, right? Per year, and they pay you out every day, right? But now, since all these banks, all these digital banks, they are starting to, their campaigns are starting to end. They are reducing their earnings rate. FDs are becoming more and more attractive. So there are two banks currently that are offering 4% per annum. That's MBSB and Bank Islam. So MBSB, this one is Sharia compliant. Both banks are Sharia compliant, but the minimum deposit is 10,000 ringgit. Obviously, being a fixed deposit, you have to lock it in for an entire year. Okay. So MBSB and Bank Islam, the minimum deposit is 500 ringgit. Okay, let me see what's next. Touch and Go Plus. Yeah, and by the way, guys, I'm not sponsored to talk about these products today. So just a disclaimer out there, right? So Touch and Go Plus, this one is a classic, which I'm sure the majority of you guys are using right now. If you are using the Touch and Go app and you're not putting your funds inside Go Plus, I think it's a bit of a waste, okay? Because it's literally free money. And we always accuse Go Plus, Touch and Go, right? In particular, this company, of monopolizing and taking away our toll money, right? So this is the opportunity for you guys to put money in Touch and Go Plus and earn some income from them, right? Okay, so Touch and Go Plus, there's a limit of 9.5k, which means if you meet this limit, you cannot deposit any more funds. You will still earn a daily profit, so it's about 90 to 95 cents. Okay, so yeah, a few questions from you guys. Let me see which is better in terms of liquidity. Okay, now liquidity, if you're looking for instant deposits and instant withdrawals, definitely you want to go for digital banks, right? Digital banks such as Rise, GX Bank, Aeon Bank, right? All these are protected by PIDM, but their returns are like 3 or about, GX Bank is 2% only, which is why I don't even talk about GX Bank these days, right? So Aeon Bank is currently 3%, Rise is the best probably, it's 3.3%, and the next one is Touch and Go. But what you're going to know about Touch and Go Plus is that it's not protected by PIDM. Right? Whereas the digital banks that I mentioned just now, all of them, they are protected by PIDM. And the majority of them, except for Boost Bank and GX Bank, these two are not Sharia compliant. Okay. So next, let's see. What's your take on Mumu's money market fund? I think it's quite attractive. The return is like what, 3.8, 3.95%. for the ringgit, and for the US dollar it's about 4 to 5%. So I should give you guys a bit of a disclaimer lah. If you guys are looking at different types of companies advertising US dollar treasuries, I'm not going to name shame these companies. You have to be a bit careful, right? Because last year, a lot of people, they went into this not knowing that currencies, they will fluctuate very wildly from time to time. Okay? They went into it because that time the ringgit was near an all-time low, near like a 2-decade or 3-decade low, like the 4.7 region. And then they're looking at, oh, this USD treasury, although it's priced in MYR, it gives you like a 5 to 6% return every year. Then they put a lot of money inside it because they think that the US dollar will continue to rise. And at the end of the day, the ringgit rallied all the way to 4.09, and they made quite a huge loss. So be careful when you're trying to play currencies. And if the Federal Reserve over at the US is planning to reduce interest rates, all of the US money market funds, or all of those companies that are promoting US treasuries, right? The returns, they will start to decline, and the US dollar will also weaken. Okay, so that's a thing that you guys need to understand. So let's move on over to the final place to grow your savings. Let me see, what else? ASB ASM. So ASB ASM, this one is a classic. Okay, I'm sure the majority of you have heard this before already. Maybe you are bored of me talking about this product also, but it's a decent product. Okay, and you can invest very easily. You just download the My ASMB app, right? And you can start from as low as 10 ringgit. Plus the yearly returns is 4 to 6% per annum. If you're a Bumiputra and you are not putting your money in ASB ASM, right? I personally don't think you're really maximizing the places to grow your savings. Okay, because Bumiputras, the yield in ASB is actually very juicy. It's much higher compared to your traditional fixed deposits. Yeah, there's RISE also, right? Which I talked about just now. 3.3% per annum. This one is Shire compliant. But there's also a 20 ringgit initial deposit, which you have to maintain. I'm not mistaken, you have to maintain at least 10 ringgit inside RISE. Okay, so some of these digital banks, right? They are required to have like a minimum balance. RISE is 10 ringgit. Aeon Bank, I think, is 20 ringgit. Okay, so that's the thing that you guys need to know. All fixed fund return for FY 2024. Hope ASB also goes up. Yeah, so there is some good news for those people who are currently invested in ASB and ASM. Is that we are likely going to see a slightly higher return for 2024. Because if you look at the Malaysian market, it is up by 10 to 15% since the start of the year. And since ASB, ASM, majority of the funds, they are invested in the Malaysian market and Malaysian equities. Okay, you do expect these funds to perform well when the Malaysian market rallies. Okay, but only time will tell. So we have a next question. So I'll probably take 2 more questions from you guys. Then I'll end the session now. Okay, hopefully you guys are enjoying it. So as a Bumiputra, how do I balance between ASB and EPF? Do I split 50-50 or weigh more on the other? So I think this one depends on what your goals are, right? When you are asking yourselves what sort of like balance should I go for, you have to ask yourself, am I trying to invest for retirement, or am I going to invest like for a short-term goal? Now, each of these, they are separate portfolios. What we've been doing previously, which I assume you guys are doing also, is you are lumping your entire portfolio into one sum and saying that, oh, I'm just investing for the sake of investing. But the correct method is to allocate a different portfolio for each specific goal. I'll explain why. So let's say you're investing for retirement. You have a 20 to 30 year time frame. In this case, you can afford to take much more risk. You can invest in riskier assets compared to someone who's investing for a wedding in the next 5 years. Right? Because in the next 5 years, you need your funds really quickly. Therefore, you cannot go all in on crypto or even go all in on a tech stock, right? Worst case scenario is that you invested in the wrong tech stock and it becomes worth much less compared to the original balance. So you must ask yourself, what is your time horizon? What are you investing for? If you're investing for retirement, then that is a separate portfolio. Okay, then decide how many percent you want to put into ASB, how many percent you want to put into EPF. Mostly it's going to go into EPF, okay, because it's long term, right? If let's say you're investing for down payment for your house, right, within the next 2 to 3 years, in that case, you need your funds really quickly. So it probably makes more sense to put more into ASB. Okay, so hopefully, answer your question. Let's see. Next question. What do you think of gold in times of war and political uncertainty in the US? Well, I've talked about this before. I think gold is a good asset for you to diversify your investment. So the recommended percentage by financial experts is not more than 5 to 10%. So that is the percentage that I'm allocating within my portfolio, about 5 to 10%. Okay, and it's typically only used as a means of diversification and sort of like a hedge against inflation. Especially during times of war, you do expect prices of gold to go up. And recently, there is this escalation of geopolitical conflict in Iran, right? Because they recently fired, I think, over 200 missiles to Israel, and then Israel said that the conflict will escalate and whatnot. So yeah, in these cases, you do expect gold to perform well. But financial experts, they only recommend about 5 to 10% with your portfolio. Yeah, so I'm not going to say more about that. Last question, I'll take one last question from you guys. New to ASMP, does it matter which of the 3 funds that I invest in? ASM, ASM2, ASM3? Okay, so for Bumiputras, there is ASB, there's ASB2, and there's ASB3. Yeah, these 3 funds, they don't have a lot of differences. Their returns are pretty much the same across the years. Now, for non-Bumis, you have ASM, ASM2, and ASM3. In this case, they are also pretty much the same fund. Okay, so the approach that I have is whichever fund has spaces, because the quota is limited, whichever fund has spaces, I just invest in them. Okay, so yeah, ASM3 is the same as ASM2, is the same as ASM1. Okay, you can take a look at their historic returns. It's pretty much the same. I think I'll stop here. Yeah, thank you so much for you guys for joining. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this session. I will see you guys in the next session, probably next month. We'll try and do a live session once a month. Okay, bye. Good night. Stay safe.